Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer and today I'm gamesplaining CO2 Second Chance. So it's been a year since I did my original review of CO2 Second Chance. What do I think of it? Do I still like it? Have I even played it? I'm glad you asked. I haven't played this. And for really good reason. I find that this game is, number one, really hard to get to the table, and number two, whenever I have managed to get to the table, I have lost dismally. I fear that that actually holds me back from playing it. But it is a co-op game, and so you don't want to win it all the time. There's a real push-pull on that whole idea of how many times should I be able to win a game. This is a Vita Lasada game, so it is intense. It is really kind of finicky is probably the best word for it. Every time I've got to the table, I've had to revise, oh yeah, that's what this does, that's what this does. And so I think that's held me back from going to put it down on the table. This is a game that my wife won't play, so it sits in that list of games that are really hard to get to the table simply because she won't play them. But the people I have over tend to be lighter gamers than this. If I go to a game night, we are stuck with a time limit, which CO2 doesn't necessarily fall into all the time, or you've got to really get started and get into it really quickly to have a chance at getting through it. There is another version where you're playing against the other players, which I haven't played, simply because I think this is a co-op game. I think it works best as a co-op game. Games that take that co-opness and they're a co-op game, but then they make it not a co-op game anymore, I'm a little bit over them. So in terms of the Vita Lasada games, this is actually the bottom of my list in terms of my love for it. That's simply because I haven't managed to get a ongoing playingness of it. I do wonder if I played it a number of times in a row, if it would start sitting. Now, having said that, Vita Lasada is my top designer, so therefore the lowest ranked game on the list of his games is actually still fairly highly ranked for me. I do enjoy that that weightiness, that having to think through stuff, and you get that in spades on this game. The whole idea with this one is that you are trying to save the planet, but you need to build stuff in order to do that, and building the stuff, it takes a little bit more than the time that you've got, so you have to start working together to help other people do their building to be able to get through. There's a lot of in and outs on this one. The length of the game changes with the number of players, which I really appreciate. I really like that. I find that a lot of co-op games especially don't change that much when you have more players or less players, so therefore they're easier or harder depending which game it is. I'm aware that Pandemic is a much easier game with 2 players than it is with 4, simply because you get to your turn to do your stuff quicker. I fear that a lot of games have that whole crunch of this is easier with this many players than it is with this. CO2 changes the length of the game, and so if you have more players, you've got a different number of turns than if you have less players. And so the number of turns is directly changed by the number of players, and that changes how you have to approach what you're doing, or you have to work together a whole bunch more with more players because there's less game to work through. Look, I think that's enough about CO2. If you have played, if you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you have any games that you would like to be gamesplained, please shoot me an email to thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter @thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.